I've started working in the space back in 2015. Really got into being an entrepreneur back in 2017. So had a lot of different crypto projects. We work on a project called SSV Network. We're building a technology called DVT. DVT stands for Distributed Validator Technology. I would say we do work with the user in mind, but that user is like a developer in most cases. The main use case that we are seeing right now with DVT is obviously liquid staking protocols. So that's essentially what we want to kind of promote as sort of a space and as a technology, eventually to make sure Ethereum is as safe and fair and distributed as possible for everyone to use, for generations to come. My name is Adam. I work on a project called SSV Network. We're building a technology called DVT. DVT stands for Distributed Validator Technology. Basically what it does is it distributes, centralizes Ethereum's consensus layer. So instead of having one machine running your validator, you'll have 4 machines, 7, 10, how many ever you choose to implement using this technology. I've started working in the space back in 2015. Really got into being an entrepreneur back in 2017. So had a lot of different crypto projects. One of them is Blockstaking, which is a non-custodial staking service that runs around 3,000 validators for stakers from all over the world. And that's where we were introduced to the DVT technology, DVT primitive by the Ethereum Foundation. We got a grant to build like a POC. And here we are today, 2 years later. We're gearing towards launching on mainnet. V3, our mainnet candidate, is going to launch in probably a month from today. And then it's mainnet time, so we're pretty excited. I would say we do work with the user in mind, but that user is like a developer in most cases. So what we wanted to create is a zero coordination protocol that is as easy to use for the average developer in the space as can be. Basically, if you look at sort of running a validator stack and that type of infrastructure, it takes a lot of time, effort, energy, resources, DevOps. What we wanted to do is kind of make sure, our documentation is best in class and the UI UX above our protocol is as easy to use as possible. So it's definitely a focus for us, and it's only going to get better and better over time. So if you look at our ecosystem, there are around 40 plus companies that are building different tools, different applications on the DVT primitive. What we're seeing the most is definitely liquid staking protocols and LSDs coming in and using this protocol, this type of solution in order to make sure they are as decentralized as possible all across the stack. So if you look at different staking implementations today, from Rocketpool to Lido, Stakewise and others, the question of how to manage and operate a validator key is, a huge pain in the ass. What we are doing is basically we're allowing them the tools to make it as decentralized as possible and to open their infrastructure to other players and other contributors. This is essentially eliminates, slashing risks and obviously downtime. And first and foremost, it brings more, decentralization and health to the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole. So as a sort of a staker, if you are kind of interacting with LSDs in the future, there are a few things that are going to be important for you. For example, MEV rewards, right? You want to make sure that you are getting a fair distribution, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is DVT, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're using is decentralized and has the best security implementations in the industry. So that's, I think that is where the industry is going. And I think in terms of the main use case that we are seeing right now with DVT is obviously liquid staking protocols. V3 mainnet candidate, right? The next step would be obviously mainnet, right? So mainnet is sort of the money time for this specific infrastructure. I mean, it has been talked about for a very long time. When we got started, nobody knew about it. We were the first implementation in the space. Now it's front and center in almost every stage in an Ethereum conference all over the world. So it's pretty amazing. The focus moving forward is going to be probably obviously mainnet and then applications. So it's not about launching a technology, it's about launching an ecosystem, right? You want to make sure that once you launch and you have mainnet out there, it's as easy to use and access as possible. So that's probably going to be the focus in the next half a year to a year, to make sure that there are a lot of different teams that are building on top of the SSV protocol. And our sort of dream for the future is to have 60+% of the stake in Ethereum using some sort of a DVT implementation, because it's a no-brainer for the ecosystem. It's more secure, slashing is kind of eliminated. You have uptime, and you have the pure sense of decentralization you can think of. All right, so let's take the solo staking example, right? What most people do when they solo stake, obviously they run a machine usually at home. There is a lot of maintenance and thought process that goes into that. Most people don't have the time or capacity to really look at that machine 24/7, make sure there's great uptime. If they go on vacation, for example, it might be an issue. There are updates and forks and things you need to take under consideration. So it's fairly technical. It takes time and resources, and you have a constant worry of looking at your validators and making sure they are operating properly. With something like DVT, what you'll be able to do is, instead of having this one at-home machine, you can distribute that same machine between different companies or different machines. So let's say you have, different friends that are running solo staking on their machines as well. You can kind of split your validator in a way between those friends or between different companies and implementations, and you'll have different configurations. So each one can run a different client. You'll have that additional robustness to your staking operation. Plus, if something goes wrong with your machine, you have downtime. You have other machines that can pick up the slack. So that's like active-to-active redundancy that is built in your setup, which is pretty important for the average solo staker. So you can go, you can take it in any direction possible. I mean, eventually the way we kind of created this protocol is machine-to-machine interaction mostly. So you're able to use SSV Network and just choose whichever machines you want to operate with. So it could be larger companies, it could be your friends, it could be dApp node-based implementations, whatever suits you. One of the key attributes to DVT is the fact that you are able to do a change round. So if one of the machine is kind of a lazy node operator or cease to test and propose, you're able to switch that machine with a different machine in the network, and it's a fairly easy process. So it really depends on what kind of an implementation you want to have. You can take it in any possible direction. There are a bunch of things. Obviously, the technology is pretty complex. Eventually, there are different DVT implementations going on in the industry right now. Eventually, the big winner out of all of that work that is being done is the Ethereum protocol and the end users and stakers. But what I would urge people to do moving forward, once this technology is on mainnet and tested, is to basically realize that by staking your ETH, you're essentially casting a vote. And if you're casting that vote with a centralized exchange, for example, you're kind of creating weaknesses in the protocol. But if you do your research and you go to protocols like Rocket Pool or Lido, others, Stader Labs, wherever it is, you essentially might be able to generate staking rewards, just like you would with, a Coinbase or Binance, but also contribute meaningfully to, the network's decentralization. So that's essentially what we want to kind of promote as sort of a space and as a technology, eventually to make sure, Ethereum is as safe and fair and distributed as possible for everyone to use, for generations to come. So that's my kind of ending mark.